Welcome to Video Battlethon number 38 of the Sue and Rosmer Video Battlethon inspired by Gary Vaynerchuk. Today's video is about equality. While the idea of equality and the reality of equality. You always hear people talk about, let's have things fair. It would be great. It would be so awesome if things were fair for everybody. We're all equal. We're not different. You hear people talk about that all the time. What I think about equality is when you have to consciously make something equal for somebody else, there's going to be somebody who's going to feel like that's not fair for me, right? And the reality of equality, it exists in theory, it exists in morals, but it doesn't exist in reality. But here we have society and a lot of people saying, make it fair, help the small guy, take from the big guy, give to the small guy. But if from the big guy's perspective, hey, I work my ass off for that, why the hell would I give it to the small guy, especially when I have a lot? People who have a lot of something, say money, they work really hard for it, right? And then some of you guys may say, well, look at those spoiled rich kids. Well, that's kind of their right, being born into that family, right? If you're born into a rich family, you have a lot of money. You're born into a poor family, you have less money. But that's your, how we say, genetic inheritance. You get what the family brings, and you kind of grow from that tree, right? So you always hear people, make themselves like, oh, such a great guy, trying to make things equal. But equality doesn't exist. It's a good idea in theory, but in the reality of life, nothing is equal. Life is not fair. Life's fucking tough. So that's why, people who have things have worked for it, busted their ass. People who don't have certain things don't work as hard for those things. They have other things that people who have a lot of money don't have. Those people who don't have a lot of money probably have more good friends, more experiences, than things. But, people who work for money and work really hard for money, they like money. And I always hear people poo-pooing about how money's bad or having a lot of money's bad. But really, the people who complain about money often are the people who don't have much money. And that's why they complain about it. And they say, oh, look how greedy, these people are. They have so much money. Why don't they just give it out for free? And and people who don't have that much money have a lot of friends. Then the rich people look at them like, oh my God, look at those people. They have so many friends. And yeah, they're probably not even good friends or whatever. But people with a lot of friends have a big social circle. People with a lot of money often have smaller social circles, because the people with less money tend to go out more, spend money, and hang out with their friends. Where the richer people tend to be working and doing whatever in the business, so they have less time for friends. So depending on what's more important to you, money or friends, right? So that's what I'm saying is equality it doesn't exist in life, and it's, how we say, a social idealism that, in my opinion, if actually practiced, in real life, it would still be not equal, because somebody's going to be unhappy.